Hey besties, this is the Weekly Chronicle, where we chronicle our journey through the shows we've watched, the books we've read, and the worlds we've spiraled into. I'm Tabatha.
And I'm Sharilyn. Grab a beverage and let's get boogin' with the besties.
Cheers. About those shows we've watched.
What shows?
Yeah, we haven't watched any, so that segment in this, that does not exist.
Don't even worry about it.
We spent all of our time reading, and as you saw in the thumbnail / title of this video, we really hammered on some trilogies, especially that one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I completed 2 trilogies this week.
Or did they complete you?
They completed me. When I tell you everything I've been through in the past 48 hours, I lost my mind. Okay, before I get into them though, I did finish A Drop of Corruption, which is just book 2, and I don't know how many books, so that's not trilogy related. But anyway, finished this, had a good time. I've talked about it. I've mentioned it for 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
So like y'all know where I'm at. It was great. It was fun. I relate to Anna's feelings at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, which is funny. I appreciate that she felt the way she did and said the things she did, because I was like, girl, same. There's a lot of interesting stuff we learned in this one about our characters, and they're just even more precious now, and I'm excited for them as characters and their journey. So whenever book 3 happens, we'll be here for it.
We will absolutely be picking that up day 1.
Yes. And then I spiraled into finished the Farseer Trilogy. It finished me.
And unfortunately, you can say even less than usual, because now I have started Assassin's Apprentice. So you can't give any hints to anything at all.
I mean, I wouldn't say anything
in general.
Anyway,
but like even if you said like names or whatever, like I really like the direction name is going now that I've started it.
No, I think there was a vague enough idea I had during the week while I was finishing these that I was going to say, and now I need to remember what that thought was so that I can say it. No, it's just again Robin Hobb's writing and the way she does these characters is just so rich. I am just still reeling because I just finished this a few hours ago, and my heart, mind, and soul are just like still recovering from that experience. This one is definitely my favorite of the Farseer Trilogy, Assassin's Quest, book number 3. The amount of, this doesn't give anything away, okay? The title is Assassin's Quest. Okay, so the amount of adventure in this book, I love, like that sold it for me. I love all the events, all the much that happens in here is fantastic. I feel pressure. Like I can't say anything, so I need you, if you know anything, to hear me out. No, it was really, really good. Oh, yeah, I can't wait for you to read it so that we can talk in depth.
Yes. 1 second.
She already has notes.
Oh, yes.
I don't even know how far you are into book 1, and she already has notes. What are your notes? What do you have going on there, Tabatha?
So, first of all, I'm loving it so far. Yes. And second of all, you are doing audio experience.
Yes.
So there's something that you'd missed that you didn't get in an audio experience. And that is the map. And I want you to tell me if you noticed anything about this map. This is the map for you guys, in case you want to play my little game.
I did wonder this whole time if there was a map, because I did audio the whole time.
I will say it's easier to notice in this illustrated version than the paperback.
Okay, there's no compass rose.
Because see, I pulled this up on my Kindle and I went, huh? Immediately? I want to see if you notice.
There's something...
Kindly turn the map upside down.
There's something missing?
No, if there's anything you notice about the map.
Oh, that's funny. Is that Alaska?
It's Alaska upside down.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Guys, it's Alaska. Oh, that's really great. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I looked at that and I was like, is that Alaska? And then I just turned it and I was like, that's Alaska. And then I looked it up, and she lived in Alaska, in Fairbanks, where I lived. So.
Oh, you lived there, so you have a little more of a... It's something that would come to mind for
you. Right. Yeah.
That's cool. Oh, I like that.
And then that really hit home as I was reading it too, because I'm noticing at least where I am. So I just finished chapter 3. And some things I've noticed are strong themes of isolation and loneliness. And that's such a huge thing in Alaska because you are very isolated, even if you are in like the town of Fairbanks. I wasn't. I lived outside of Fairbanks. But even if you did live in town, because it's so much smaller, because there's of all of the snow, it's so isolating. So I wonder if that really influenced her in writing this. And it also starts very wintry. So there was that as well. Some other things I noticed, and I am absolutely so glad that I am doing this physically, because I am able to just pause and look at her writing, which is fantastic. But something I noticed really strongly about her writing was alliteration. She has a ton of like gorgeous examples of alliteration. I actually was reading a sentence to one of our friends the other day, because that's just what you do, you know. But it was just this part of the sentence, so it's got a previous part, but it says, "Some sneaking show of a bitterness I long thought dead. I think myself cured of all of my spite, but when I touch pen to paper, the hurt of a boy bleeds out with sea-spawned ink, until I suspect each carefully formed black letter scabs over some ancient scarlet wound." It's so poetic, and there's so many instances of alliteration just in that sentence alone. And then it's throughout, so loneliness and loss, which I noticed also were themes, remorseless rain. I just kept noticing these beautiful examples of just elevated writing through alliteration and other literary things, but definitely I noticed the alliteration. I also loved the family ties dynamic that we've got going on, and whether or not how those family ties affect a person, and then the importance of names. So there's a really cool system in here where all of the royalty are named by like virtues. And so that's really cool to see how that impacts their name. And do you know what Fitz means?
No.
Fitz means son of.
Oh, that explains why they use that. I had a feeling it was something like that, but I didn't think about it.
Yeah, I ended up looking up Fitz because I was like, these names are so important. They're really emphasizing names. So I was like, is Fitz a word? And it means son of. And I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Crazy.
It just shows how much intentionality went into this.
And I think even in the beginning of that book, the narrator, it's first person. Yeah, he points out that like he starts off talking about names and the weight they carry and how intentionally people name their children in.
Yes.
So yes, there are a lot of, at first I thought it was just kind of a classic fantasy in like Arthurian fantasy where they name like regal, shrewd, like chivalry, like these names that are just like oh, of course they would, like, what's the word I'm looking for? It didn't feel
important. It didn't feel like vital.
Yeah, it felt like typical, I guess, of the genre that like, oh, of course they named them that way, but then for it to actually mean to realize all the meaning behind that and intentionality, it's not just like, oh, I named him king because he's king, like I'm giving this person something to live up to.
Yes.
And that, the importance of names. And even if you, like, give someone a name that's actually kind of less than, like, that they grow into that. So it's like just how much meaning goes into naming a person and the weight or lack thereof that they carry from it really shapes the characters. And they either live up to, like, the meaning or kind of live down to, just depending on whatever the name is. So it's very interesting how all that plays throughout the books.
I mean, you can already see examples even this far deep with like Prince Chivalry, so I'm not far, so I can basically yap at you guys about most things.
And I can't say shit.
But like Prince Chivalry, which is Fitz's dad, the main character's dad, he, in doing what he feels is right, often hurts people because that is what he views as chivalry. He's doing what he views as right. And so he was next in line for the throne, and he's a very good diplomat. He's a very strong prince. He was a very good person to be next in line to the throne, at least as far as we know right now. But he renounced his claim due to this, so it's going to be really interesting to see the consequences, and I hope another certain prince who is now first in line doesn't end up dying, because the person behind him is awful, and so obviously I expect that to go that way. But notice the beautiful blank expression we have over here.
I was doing so well till you pointed it out.
It's excellent. Just like, But yeah, Fitz is just a darling. I felt so much for him. She does such a good job with making you feel for him and feel that loneliness, that no one is wanting to listen to him. No one wants to really spend much time with him. He starts off sleeping in a barn, essentially. And then when he gets out of that station and they move into an actual town, he's still essentially alone until he finds some solace and he finds some friends and something happens to where things get shaken up a bit. So, and I already know we're going in a direction away from the town now. So this is going to be a very interesting and long adventure, and I'm so happy to get started with it.
Yeah. So, one trilogy down, for me at least. The other trilogy I completed this week was the Nevernight Chronicle. I finished book 3, Dark Dawn, and this one also finished me off in a very different way. So it was very interesting reading these simultaneously and completing these stories simultaneously, because they're very different. This one focuses so much on revenge, and it's so dark and violent, and wow. Something I respect a lot in more and more of the books we're reading lately is how no character is safe.
I love that.
I love it. Like, these stakes are high, and some authors are not afraid of completely breaking your heart, and I respect that. I hurt, but I respect it. So J. Kristoff, what he did in this book, there are some really great, I don't know if full circle is quite the right term, but there are a lot of things, nuggets along the way that get tied together in this book. And wow, there were so many moments where I was just like jaw dropped. Like, he did what? Like, that, you mean to tell me, like, oh my gosh, it was, there are so many good moments. And I just love the way this story is crafted. And
I want you to tell the people what you told me in the car.
Which thing?
About this related to Red Rising. No, with the caveat,
yes,
of course.
Yes. Okay, so yes. This series, what this book did, very different from Red Rising, but still, where this morning, I finished, I closed the book, and I put it down, and I thought, is this gonna topple Red Rising as my number one? Like, that's where I'm at right now. Now I gotta sleep on it, okay? It's still very fresh. I still need to sit with it and determine, because they're very different stories. But I mean, they do have a lot of similar themes, but done very differently. And the characters have similar but different motivations and ways they go about making stuff happen. And yeah, so I'm gonna have to sit on that for a hot minute.
I just want to say my heart is so happy because I have wanted her to read this series since we have met. I have said, like, you're going to love this series. This series is going to be a top contender for you. Like, for her specifically, that doesn't mean it's for everybody, but for Sharilyn specifically and what I know about her. And then when she started picking it up, I was like, okay, but what if I'm wrong? And so to be right feels nice.
Feels so good to be right. Yes, dude. Yeah, you were right. You were right. Loved this series. And I'm almost scared to read Empire of the Vampire because I don't want it to be, like, I want this to be my favorite. Like, it'll be good. I'm cool with that, but I'm like, I don't want it. I want this to remain my favorite Kristoff.
I mean, it could be. I haven't heard anybody with that take.
Exactly. But. So I'm like, I love it so much that I don't want to love anything more than it. Which is a weird, I don't know.
It's fresh.
It's fresh. It's fresh. It's fresh. I can't even think about what else I'm going to read.
I mean, next. You will be reading Empire of the Vampire this year.
It will happen. It has to happen. Book 3 comes out in the fall, so
you've got some time.
I have some time.
Not much.
I do actually have I have a physical. I think I got the audiobook too. So I have it. So it can happen whenever. I'm just not ready for it yet. But I love, again, J. Kristoff's writing style. I love the narrator in this book and everything.
And if you love the gothic elements, girl, you're gonna eat up Empire the Vampire. Add a little French spice to it.
Oh, interesting. Anyway.
First the French apocalypse and now
the French vampires? Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. I'm actually good. So yeah, that's what I read this week. What'd you read, Tabatha?
So I got some more. I also did finish a trilogy, okay?
Yes.
I finished the Lilith Brood / Xenogenesis, whatever you want to call it, trilogy. It has 2 names. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. It's weird. I will still stand by the fact that it is weird, but it is worth it. Each book is following a different perspective. So in the first book, we're following Lilith. That is our main character. She is on board an alien ship and told that a nuclear apocalypse has happened, and to keep the humans from going extinct, she has to work with the Oankali. They have to make a little bit of a trade. And so all of the future children born from here on out are half alien, half the Oankali, half human. And so that ends up with really, really interesting perspectives. We've got themes of colonialism. We've got themes it's also got effects of violence and whether or not humans are destined to be violent. So that's one of the reasons that the alien race wants to work with the humans and kind of breed out that violence from humans so that they don't exterminate the earth again. And so it's really, really fascinating because you get multiple perspectives in each of you get one perspective per book, but you're following different facets of how this shapes out. You end up following some of her children through the second and third book. And so, as you know already, based on what I just told you, they are half human and half the Oankali. And so it deals with those. There's discussions on gender and the difference between like sex and gender. There's just every discussion that you could have. And it's not in a way that it's like, here is what you should think. It's very much in a what is right, because there's also like body autonomy issues, and so there's just so much goodness in here. If you like really good blunt style writing, I would say it's not flowery at all. It's very simple prose, but every word matters, every detail matters. These are very short, and there's so much plot and so much character in each and every one of these. This is absolutely a masterclass of science fiction, and I can see why Octavia E. Butler is regarded as a like master science fiction writer. It's so hard to describe because of how weird it is, and if you say certain elements, it's going to sound really, really, really bizarre, but it all plays out perfectly, I would say.
Okay.
So that's the trilogy I completed. And then I also finished the volumes 8 and 9 of Naruto. We're still in the exams.
You completed a 3-in-1 omnibus? Trilogy much? Anyway.
We're still in the exams. We're going into the like one-on-one fights, which is pretty fun.
Yeah.
I like the one we're about to have a lot from the anime, so that's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
It's the one where Sasuke has a fight with, I won't say who. Next I finished The Knight and the Moth. I have mixed feelings, mostly not good feelings. The thing is, I think this really solidified that I'm not a fantasy romance person because there are so many elements that should work for me that don't, but also the romance is kind of boring. So I'm like, I kind of go back and forth on this. I'm gonna wait to like reserve judgment on fantasy romance in general until I read like maybe a few more. I have a couple more on my shelves that I can read to see if it's just I'm picking the wrong books or whatever. But the romance was bland. The writing was inconsistent. It went from like really flowery to street talk. There was a lot of idioms used, which I don't love that because it took me out every single time. So like one was like beat a dead horse. And like that's fine. You could say this in this world, but it's a different world. Why would you have the same phrases that we use and they do it multiple times? So that kind of took me out. There's a gargoyle that's fun. That's the best part of the book is the gargoyle for sure. She also does a really good job with her magic systems, as you know from One Dark Window.
Yes.
I feel like if she were to just write regular fantasy, I feel like it would go a lot better for me because she has good world building. She has good magic systems. Her characters are a little flat. They're not the most exciting, but I don't think they tend to be in fantasy romance for me, at least. They all tend to follow like the same. They're almost always an Aelin and a Rowan. They're almost always that exact dynamic. And so it's the same kind of dynamic here where we've got strong female protagonist who's a little bit snarky, dude who's a little bit grumpy. Like, I don't know. It's kind of boring in that sense. And then plot-wise, you don't actually... So I would stay away from the synopsis because you don't actually get into where it says it is going until like 130 pages in. That's when we actually start going, oh, this is the direction of the plot. And then once we get that plot element revealed, it's the same thing 6 different times. And so it's repetitive.
Yeah.
Feels a bit repetitive there. So this ended up being, and I'm being a little bit harsh on this right now, but I did give it a 2.5 because it was entertaining enough most of the time. I did notice, however, that anytime I put it down, I was cool. I didn't need to come back and read it.
Yeah.
I also did the thing that I made fun of you for, actually, where, like, Scott would come in and I would be immediately able to just set this aside. Like, cool, yeah, like, I don't need to finish this sentence, this paragraph, this chapter, whatever. Like, I have not any kind of investment to where I can just literally close the book and set it aside.
Okay, in my defense, see what she is referring to are all the times I have paused an audiobook, not just at the end of a chapter, but like mid-sentence or mid-word, because I listen on my drive to and from work, and so I'll just pause it when I get where I'm going, and it's not always convenient, but I have to get out of the car, so I pause it, and it's just like... And she found out about that one time, and I'm glad you've seen the error of your ways. No, but even the ones I did with were books I was actually invested in. I was just like, I can't keep going right now.
Yeah, you literally couldn't.
Yeah,
and that
so
is fair.
you're just like, nah. Anyway, yes.
Yeah. Because usually, you know, you'll be sitting there, you'll be reading a book, and you're like, give me a second.
Yeah. You're
like,
let me just doesn't exist.
Let me just finish this chapter real quick. I'm like 2 pages done. I don't know
how many times I did that to Jose this week. I was like, he would come in and I'd be like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was the opposite for me with this book. I was like,
you're like, please something, come take me away. Please make me stop reading.
Yeah. So don't let that detract you if you want to read it. If you like fun world building, cool magic system, fun little companion. I don't think it's necessarily a bad companion. Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a bad book. It just really, 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 really did not work for me. Okay.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm interested to read it because we're also reading it for like a book club with some of our friends. So it'll be really interesting to see where we're each at in our fantasy romance journey, because when we all met, we were kind of all in the height of our fantasy romance reading. And so now we've all like, we wanted to read this.
What's really funny is I was at the height. I was like, really,
true.
You were like beginning.
Yeah.
You had like just read ACOTAR. Yes. I was like, I'd already read Serpent and the Wings of Night. I'd already read like all of that stuff.
Yeah, you were like telling us what to read.
I was like deep into fantasy romance at that time. And so I was like just trying to get you guys into that because you were mostly reading thrillers and like slowly getting into fantasy romance.
I was like reading ACOTAR, and then I read Throne of Glass because of you, and Crescent City. I read Sarah J. Maas. I finally got through all of it because of y'all. One
of our other friends was also like really into fantasy romance, and then the other one had never read any fantasy romance at all in her life.
So we kind of got her into it. So we were all like, y'all were like feeding us fantasy romance, and then we've gone in different reading directions since then.
Also really funny because I called that friend that didn't like fantasy romance and now does, and I was like, you guys are vetting the fantasy romance from now on. I'm not doing it anymore.
Like, no, I can't.
Nope.
Yeah, I'll be interested to because I did love One Dark Window when I read it, and like in my mind, I'm like, I could enjoy rereading it, but it's only. I think that's only because I already know that I like those characters and that world and everything. Like the thought of having to
think you could reread it, maybe you couldn't.
Well, no, where I was going with that is that having to invest completely anew with a different series that I haven't touched yet. So like with this, it'll be a whole new investment. I'm like, if it's a book I've already read and I enjoyed it and I like had a good time, like at least at this point, I don't think I would hate rereading One Dark Window because I really enjoyed it.
But did you just enjoy it for the gimmick? That's my only concern, because I read it the first time and I loved the gimmick, but then I reread it and that intrigue of like what that was, where that was going, was gone. And I read it and then I noticed all the poetry was all, she also holds your hand so much throughout the entire thing in One Dark Window and this one. So it ends up being very predictable.
Okay. Yeah, that I didn't. No, the thing you're referring to, I actually forgot was even in that book. So that wasn't even on my mind. But mostly I was just thinking, like, I liked the characters. I liked the magic system.
Did you like the romance in that?
Yeah, I was cool with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, it was, like, I did like it. And I was also picturing the love interest. Nothing like how he was described. I was picturing him as Kit Harington because I, watched Game of Thrones last year. So, like, I was just like, yeah, I like this character. But yeah, I think I not that I'm trying to reread anything right now, but suffice it to say, investing new into new characters, new story, new world, that's where I hesitate.
Yeah, I need it to be pre-vetted from now on. Like, you pre-vetted Phantasma for me, and then you were no. And then I was like, cool, gone, don't need it.
Yeah, I think it was funny with this one because we all ran to get it because you got the pretty version.
I know.
Which I'm not mad to have the pretty version on my shelf. I also just not ready to read it.
I'll take that one. I will take that L. I'm sorry. Last book that I started, I haven't finished it yet. I am about a third to a half through is Polybius. This is
super
fun.
180.
Yes,
Let's turn. Yes.
This is really fun so far. I wouldn't say it's for everybody. I'm trying to figure out so far if I think it's better for people who know the hoax or don't know the hoax. Because I know the hoax, so there's no
suspense?
Suspense, yeah. There's no suspense of like what is happening right now because there's like, ooh, but also I don't know. Unless
there's a twist later.
Yeah, exactly.
And that would get you.
Yeah. But it is also neat to see, like, at the same time, it's really neat to see, because I had very recently rewatched that little YouTube documentary on this.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd seen, like, they had some, like, fake news articles and stuff. And some of those are kind of, like, in here. And it's sprinkled in. I think that's really neat. So, I don't know. This is not going to be for everyone, but I'm enjoying it.
That's all that matters.
And I can see why it says Stranger Things, because the characters are younger. They are teenagers. This is definitely going in, like, the third person omniscient, where we sometimes are just, like, randomly jumping into other people's heads, which is a little jarring, but also I'm fine with it. I don't care. But if it's something, I know that sometimes people have a problem with that, so want to make sure that that's pointed out. But yeah, it's just, a good fun time so far.
Sweet. Is that everything we read this week?
That is everything we've read this week. And as we mentioned, we haven't watched anything, so what are we reading next? I'm finishing up Polybius. Is there anything you're still working on?
Nope, I completed everything I was working on, so now my brain is taking a day or two to breathe before we begin. The way we begin.
Yes.
I say before we begin. I may or may not have sneak peeked the first, like, 5 pages.
Which I find so rude.
It wasn't intentional.
Was rude.
It wasn't intentional.
That was really
I didn't have a book with me, and I had my phone, and I was like, well, I'm not just going to start some random book that's not already planned for June that I have on. So I just poked. I just poked a little bit through.
Okay.
And it was nothing like what I expected from Sir, Mr. Dr. Philip Chase. It was, he's just such a, like, just who he is as a person is just so, like, calm and
he opened
chill.
his eyes and smiled.
Literally? No, you don't understand. You won't understand.
Understand. You're a changed person 6 pages in.
No, I did not. You'll find out, okay? Literally 5-6 pages in, and I was like, okay, I'll wait for you to read it and see if you expected it.
Okay.
But I did not expect it, and I was like, so anyway, it's extra funny because the book that I put it on for the amazing readathon. The prompt that I put it for was a cozy read because it's Philip Chase and just who he is as a person. I'm like, I want to read his book, and that makes it a comfort read to me, is because he wrote it. And I read the first 5 pages and I was like, this is not comforting. This is not comforting. So it'll be.
But it's cozy in the sense that it's epic fantasy.
Yeah, that's why. But yeah, I'm like, this was not. I didn't know what to expect. Mm-hmm. That was not it.
I have it for green cover, and this cover is mostly green. And that's the first leg. I'm
on the Pathfinders team, so I'm no stakes. Just read whatever I feel like in whatever order, because
And we feel like reading this first.
Well, yeah, because I mean that's gonna be a buddy read. Yeah. So I can't not read it first. Yeah. But I had it for a different prompt, so whatever prompt I had it for doesn't matter because I'm not reading it in the order prompt. Anyway, so we're reading that first.
Because my prompt does matter, because green cover is first.
Green cover is first. She's actually on a competitive team.
Do I control our TBR this month?
No, that one's a buddy read.
Do we have any others?
I don't remember. Why would either of us remember what's on our TBR?
You have Dungeon Crawler Carl on yours, and I am so mad that you put that there, because I just forgot until I was editing that video. And then I was like, I have to read Dungeon Crawler Carl too this month, because that also is a buddy read. So you signed that up for both of us without telling me that you were signing us up for that.
Oh well. I'm trying to look at what my TBR is. Okay, this is that. Well, we both have Empire of Silence going on, so that'll be a buddy read. I have God Killer in here, which you haven't read. So if you care to read that at the same time.
Did I put it on my list?
I don't think so.
I have bumped that on my TBR. So literally like every month this year. I need to read it at some point. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's only 288 pages.
Well, we had to pick 10 books.
I know. That's why I'm not doing the competitive one. I can't read 10 books in 30 days. Books. That's one book for every 3 days. Like, I can't do that.
Anyway, the books we're reading next is The Way of Edan, and then Bree will decide what I'm reading next. She'll read whatever the fuck she wants to next.
That's the whole plan. Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us. Let us know what you've read this week and what you're planning on reading next. If you're not feeling chatty, leave us some kind of water emoji, because there's water on the cover.
Okay, cool. Well, besties, our scrolls are sealed for now, but the tale continues next week. Until then, read bravely, binge boldly, and don't forget your brew. Cheers, besties.
Cheers.